Good evening and welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Mystery. I'm Brett, and tonight we delve into a haunting case from the heart of Bristol. The violent and unexplained death of Christopher Hewitt, a young man with his whole life ahead of him. It was a balmy June evening in 2001, the kind of night when Easton's streets hummed with life, the clinking of glasses and laughter spilling out of the pub doors. Christopher Hewitt, just 18 years old, had recently arrived in Bristol from Jamaica, seeking opportunities and a fresh start. Instead, he found something far darker, a cruel and premature end outside of a bustling pub. The available details of Christopher Hewitt's murder are limited, but what we can do is extrapolate plausible scenarios and simply consider motives for the case. It was June the 10th of 2001. The air was heavy, tinged with the smell of spilled beer and summer heat. Christopher was outside a local pub in Easton when the attack began. Witnesses described it as sudden, almost calculated. A group of individuals descended upon him, fists, feet, fury, and then it was over. But there are eerie details. Amidst the chaos, not a single person stepped forward to help Christopher. He was left alone, blood pooling beneath him, as the perpetrators disappeared into the night. The first, most obvious question is, why? Was it fear, apathy, or were there silent eyes that watched, complicit in their stillness? You'd think such a violent attack in a public place would yield answers, but in Christopher's case, it didn't. Despite the number of people present that night, a wall of silence quickly formed, a barrier that investigators struggled to break. It raises the question, was the community protecting the guilty, or were they protecting themselves? What was so terrifying that not one person dared to speak the truth? One theory suggests that Easton's undercurrent of gang activity may have played a role. If so, could the attackers have sent a clear, unspoken message to witnesses, perhaps, stay quiet, or you'll be next? Or maybe there was another force at play, a deeper fear that justice itself might fail them. With so little information available about this case, we're left to pause for a moment and examine the theories. They're as unsettling as varied. Could this simply be a case of mistaken identity? Was Christopher simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? Did the attackers believe him to be someone else, perhaps an enemy or a rival? Or was it a targeted attack? Others suggest that this was no random act. Could Christopher have unknowingly crossed paths with someone seeking vengeance? Racial tensions have also been suggested as a possible motive. Easton in the early 2000s was no stranger to unrest. Could Christopher's heritage have made him a target in a climate fraught with racial tension? Or was this quite simply random violence? The chilling possibility this was an act of senseless brutality, an eruption of violence without rhyme or reason. Each of our theories is plausible, although each one raises more questions than answers. When we consider the scene, the pub's exterior that night might have been a scene of chaotic normalcy, voices raised in laughter, the faint clink of pint glasses, and the dim glow of streetlights casting long shadows. Then, out of nowhere, the scene shifts. The commotion erupts so quickly that onlookers barely had time to react. Witnesses later described hearing angry voices, possibly an argument that escalated, but what was said? Could there have been an earlier confrontation inside the pub? Some reported seeing Christopher looking uneasy moments before he stepped outside. Witnesses also said the attack was brutal. Multiple attackers surrounded Christopher, their faces partially hidden by the poor lighting and possibly by hoods or hats. It was over in minutes when the attackers fled. They disappeared into the intricate maze of Easton streets. Could they have used a getaway car parked in an alley, or did they melt into the anonymity of the night, vanishing into nearby housing? Was this attack premeditated, or was it an act of opportunist violence? Official reports may have documented the specific injuries Christopher sustained. Was it a beating, stabbing, or even a combination? We don't have the details, but the method could give clues about the attacker's motives and their intent. A beating might suggest rage or an attempt to intimidate, while a stabbing could point to a swift, deadly intent. If the injuries were excessive, it might suggest overkill, hinting at a deeply personal motive. Were there items or clues left at the scene? A dropped weapon, an article of clothing, or even evidence of a struggle like footprints or scuff marks? Did the attackers leave anything behind that could point to their identities? These small details often play a critical role in piecing together events. The biggest question, however, is why did so many refuse to come forward? Was it simply fear, or could there have been other pressures? In 2001, Easton was a place where community ties ran deep, but so did mistrust of law enforcement. Could gangs or organised crime have played a role, intimidating witnesses into silence? And where was Christopher earlier that evening? Was he with friends, or had he been at the pub alone? Did he cross paths with the wrong crowd before the attack? Tracing his movements could provide a vital timeline leading up to his tragic end. Christopher's body was discovered lying motionless on the pavement, blood pooling beneath him. Did emergency services respond quickly? Were there any last words that he managed to say? His family's grief was compounded by a lack of answers. Police promised justice, but as the days turned to weeks, leads grew cold. To truly understand this case, we have to turn our lens to Easton itself. In 2001, the neighbourhood was a tapestry of cultures and histories, but it was always a community grappling with mistrust towards outsiders, toward authorities, and even perhaps toward one another. The silence surrounding Christopher's case is as loud as a scream. It begs the question: what secrets does Easton still hold? And what would it take for those secrets to come to light? Investigators at the time hit dead end after dead end. Witnesses were evasive, leads fizzled, the case grew cold. But let's not forget who Christopher was. Friends described him as warm-hearted, ambitious, and full of promise. He was 18 years old. He had dreams that were extinguished in a single brutal moment. His story is more than just a tragedy. It's a stark reminder of how fragile justice can be. When fear takes root, it chokes the truth. And without the truth, there's no justice. I want you to imagine somewhere, someone knows the truth. Someone saw something that night, something they've carried in silence for over 20 years. Could it be you? Could it be someone you know? What haunts me the most about this case is the thought of Christopher's killers walking free. They may still roam the streets of Easton or anywhere, while Christopher lies in eternal silence. Tonight, as you listen to Christopher's story, ask yourself, could you help bring his killers to justice? If you lived in Easton in 2001, if you've heard whispers, if you've seen something that just didn't sit right, now could be the time to speak. For Christopher, for his family, for the truth. Because the echoes of that night will never fade until justice is served. I'm Brett. This is Sunday Night Mystery, and the case of Christopher Hewitt is far from closed. If you have any information about tonight's or any of the cases that we feature, please contact your local authorities. Stay safe, and until next time, keep questioning, keep searching, and keep unraveling the mysteries of our world. Because time, like a merciless predator, marches on, leaving behind shattered dreams and broken promises. Yet, amidst those shadows of despair, glimmers of hope remain. Join us next time as we delve into another chilling mystery that continues to confound investigators and haunt communities. Until then, stay vigilant and never forget those who've been lost to the shadows. Until next week, stay safe. Remember, the truth may be hidden, but as long as we keep the investigation alive, it's never truly lost. I'm Brett, and I'll see you next time on Sunday Night Mystery. But for now, stay curious, stay vigilant, and be sure to guard yourself against the darkness that surrounds us all. I'll see you next week on Sunday Night Mystery.